Welcome in, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're getting into something I find really interesting, that world of perfumes and cosmetics. But we're not just talking sense. We're digging into how to actually land a wholesale merchant job in that industry. And of course, we're using RoleCatcher's awesome AI career and interview guides to help us out.
It's funny. People hear perfume and think, oh, that sounds glamorous. But this role, it's way more than just liking nice smells.
Definitely not just about sniffing candles all day.
Not at all. We're talking serious business here. Big negotiations, sourcing products, spotting trends before anyone else. You really got to understand this whole market inside and out. That's where RoleCatcher is so cool, though. It gets into the nitty-gritty, like what a wholesale merchant actually does day to day.
Yeah, it's way more interesting than just the fancy job title might suggest.
For sure. Like their career guide, it's got this what they do section. It lays it all out. It's a mix of analysis, negotiation. I gotta have those people skills too. And guess what? It's not all just office life either.
Okay, tell me more about that. Our listeners love to hear about jobs with some variety.
The guide actually mentions travel potential, which I know is something you always appreciate.
Absolutely, that's a big plus for me. Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're totally hooked on this career path. Where do they even start with prepping for an interview?
Well, that's where RoleCatcher's interview guide comes in. It's clutch. It's seriously like having a cheat sheet for your big interview. Tons of potential questions they walk you through, like how to answer them in a way that makes you stand out.
Right, not just giving those generic, canned responses. So what's one of those tricky questions they help you with?
So they always hit you with the classic, how did you become interested in the perfume and cosmetics industry? Seems simple, right? But you'd be surprised how many people fumble it.
Yeah, because it's easy to just default to like, oh, I've always loved makeup. But I'm guessing there's a better way to approach that.
Way better. Think about it. Everyone's going to say that, right? It's about
Yeah.
fashion. Yeah, but you got to convey it through a story.
Oh, I like that. So instead of, I love perfume, it's more like,
Exactly. It shows a real connection you have to this world. And that's what's going to make you memorable. Now, another question they highlight, because this industry moves so fast, they want to know, how do you stay up to date on trends in the perfume and cosmetics world?
which honestly can feel overwhelming, right? Like, how do you even keep up?
Right. It's overwhelming if you're not already in it. That's where RoleCatcher comes in with some seriously helpful advice. They break it down, tell you about publications to check out, like Perfumer and Flavorist. Ever heard of that one?
I actually haven't. See, I'm learning stuff already.
Exactly. There you go. And trade shows. Can't forget those. And then a really easy one. Who are the big names online? Who are you following? Mention those.
It shows you're already in the loop, even if you're new to the wholesale side of it. That's really smart. So we've talked about the glamorous side, but RoleCatcher keeps it real too. They mentioned those potential downsides.
Gotta be honest, right? They list high earning potential, which everyone loves to hear, obviously. But they're also upfront about needing to be on top of your game constantly.
Which makes sense. This industry is so competitive. Okay, so how do you actually demonstrate that in an interview?
Research, 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 and not just like, oh, I know what this company does, but really digging in who are their competitors? What are the big trends everyone's talking about? And then here's where it gets interesting. Can you speak to the actual market shifts?
So it's not just about liking pretty packaging. It's understanding the business behind the beauty.
I love that. Okay, but let's switch gears for a second. Talk about experience. Specifically, for anyone listening who might be thinking about switching careers, RoleCatcher talks about the question. Can you explain your experience with wholesale purchasing and inventory management? Which can feel intimidating if you haven't worked in wholesale directly.
Absolutely, and you don't want to lie, obviously. But here's the thing, it's about transferable skills. So maybe you haven't handled like bulk orders of perfume. Right, more like bulk orders of coffee.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. But think about it. Have you ever, I don't know, maybe you managed stock at a retail job or even just negotiated a discount for like a big group purchase? Anything where you had to think about supply and demand.
Those are great examples because they might seem small, but they require a lot of the same skills.
Exactly. And here's where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer, seriously. You can actually put in your past experience, and it helps you connect the dots, see which skills are most relevant for a wholesale merchant role.
That is so cool. So even if your resume doesn't scream wholesale, RoleCatcher helps you highlight those transferable skills so the interviewer gets it.
It's like having a career coach in your back pocket, helping you put your best foot forward. It's wild.
It really is amazing how technology can personalize something as nerve-wracking as a job interview. But It's not just about suggesting what to say, right? RoleCatcher actually takes it a step further.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Get this. Their AI analyzes your delivery. It's like having a personal coach, but like for real. We'll dig into that a little bit later. But first, let's keep going with those curveball interview questions. You ready? Prepping for an interview, it's kind of like, I don't know, picking the right perfume, right? You think about those top notes, that first impression, but then there are those base notes, the ones that really linger.
Ooh, I like that analogy. That's good. And speaking of things that linger, good impressions, hopefully, let's talk about relationships. Because this role, it's not just about pushing products, is it?
No way! You got to play the long game. It's all about building those relationships, and RoleCatcher actually brings up a question about this. They ask, how do you build and maintain relationships with both suppliers and customers?
Makes sense, right? You're kind of like the bridge between those two worlds.
100%. So on one hand, you need suppliers to trust you, to give you the best products, the inside scoop, maybe even those exclusive deals. But then on the other hand,
You got to know what your customers are actually looking for, what's flying off the shelves.
exactly. So how do you prove that in an interview? How do you show them you're trustworthy?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Stories. It's all about having those anecdotes ready to go. Times you navigated a tough situation, maybe smoothed things over between people, or went above and beyond, things like that.
Okay, so let's say, I don't know, maybe you convinced the supplier to give you a better price on a new line of skincare.
Love it. Keep going.
And then, because you got that better price, you were able to offer a more competitive price to your buyers. Everyone wins.
See, perfect example. It shows you can handle the pressure, the back and forth, but you're not going to burn bridges to do it. Okay, but it's not just about being everyone's best friend, right? You need that analytical side too.
Right, because gut instinct can only take you so far. Got to have those numbers to back it up.
100%. And wouldn't you know it, RoleCatcher has a question about this. It's usually something like, how do you analyze sales data to identify trends and opportunities for growth?
Which honestly sounds a little scary. Like, I don't want to give a whole lecture on spreadsheets.
No one wants that. The key here is showing you can turn those numbers, the raw data, into like actionable gold. So maybe you spotted a pattern that led to a killer marketing campaign. Or, I don't know, you saw a product that was tanking and you figured out why.
So instead of just saying, I'm good at Excel, which we've all heard a million
Oh, a
times,
million times.
it's more like, I use the sales data to anticipate this huge demand for natural perfumes.
Yes. Keep going. I'm on the edge of my seat.
So then I was able to advise my buyers to stock up early, and boom, we crushed our sales goals.
Nailed it. See, that shows you get it. You understand the why behind those numbers, which is huge. Okay, but let's say you're going for a more senior role. Maybe you'll be managing a team, right?
Ah, yes. The leadership questions.
Mhm.
Always a bit nerve-wracking, even for those of us who've been around the block a few times.
Totally. But guess what? RoleCatcher's got our backs again. They often throw in something like, how do you manage and motivate a team of sales representatives?
Okay, so more than just, I'm a people person
Yeah.
with a big cheesy grin.
Please, no one do that. It's gotta be genuine. Think about specific times you actually inspired your team, gave feedback that was helpful, or even dealt with conflict, right? Because that's gonna happen. Did you mentor someone who then totally killed it? Did you come up with a training program that boosted everyone's performance?
It's about showing you understand what it actually takes to lead, not just boss people around and hope for the best.
Exactly. And again, concrete examples are key. Like, did your team exceed their goals under your leadership? Did you successfully launch a whole new product line? Those numbers, they speak volumes.
Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
But for job interviews, I love it.
Exactly. Now, remember how we were talking about RoleCatcher's AI giving feedback on delivery?
Yes. Tell me everything. I want all the details.
So picture this. You've prepped for a question. You feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
But then you actually record yourself answering it. RoleCatcher has this video practice feature. It's amazing.
Okay, so you're putting yourself in the hot seat, but virtually. And then what?
That's where the magic happens. RoleCatcher's AI actually analyzes your video, and not just the words, but like your tone of voice, how fast you're talking, even your body language.
Wow. No way. That's incredible and kind of scary,
Yeah.
but also amazing. What kind of feedback does it give? Does it tell you to smile more or something?
Oh, no, it is way more sophisticated than that. Like maybe you're fidgeting or, I don't know, not making eye contact, little things you wouldn't even notice. Or maybe your tone is kind of flat when you're talking about something you should sound excited about. It'll pick up on stuff like that.
It's like having a personal brand consultant, but way cheaper. I love it.
Seriously. And the best part, you can practice as many times as you need, get feedback each time until you nail it.
That takes so much pressure off. Okay, but it's not just about those individual questions, right? There's got to be that bigger picture stuff too, like showing your passion for this whole industry, right?
Yeah.
Bingo. The interviewers, they want to see that spark. They want to see that you're not just there for a paycheck. You're genuinely excited about the world of perfume and cosmetics.
So how do you show that genuine passion, in an interview?
Stories, just like we talked about before. Each question, it's like a little window to share a story, right?
Yeah.
But it's got to be a story that shows off what you can do, what gets you fired up.
So less about reciting your resume, more about making those experiences come alive.
100%. Like, let's say they ask, can you give me an example of a successful product launch you were a part of? Instead of just saying, oh yeah, I launched this fragrance line, tell me the story.
Ooh, okay, I'm intrigued. Give me the story.
Start with the why. Maybe you noticed there weren't any, I don't know, organic perfumes on the market that were also like ethically sourced. That's your in, right? And then walk them through it, the how. Did you come up with some wild packaging ideas? Did you work with these master perfumers to get the scent just right?
And what about the bumps in the road? I bet there were some of those.
Oh, for sure. Maybe a key ingredient got stuck at customs or your first marketing campaign. It totally flopped.
Makes it more relatable, right? Everyone loves a comeback story.
Exactly. And then, of course, you got to end on that high note. So, did this product totally blow past all your sales goals, win any awards? Those little details, that's what makes you memorable.
It's like you said, those base notes. Not just a quick sniff, but something that really sticks with you.
Exactly. But even beyond the individual stories, you want to show them you're thinking long term. Where do you see your career going?
Which brings us back to RoleCatcher's career stages section. We keep mentioning it, but there's so much good stuff in there.
Seriously, it's a gold mine. They break down the whole career path. Like, you start entry level, maybe work your way up to management. Some people even branch out, start their own distribution companies,
It's so helpful to see those possibilities, especially when they hit you with that question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ugh, the worst, right. But if you can mention something specific from RoleCatcher's research, it shows you've done your homework. You're not just saying any old thing.
Right, it's like, I'm not just looking for a job, I'm looking for my career path, and I'm ready to grow.
Nailed it. Okay, one last thing I want to touch on, because RoleCatcher mentions this a lot. You gotta stay ahead of the curve in this industry. It's constantly changing.
So how do you even do that? It feels like there's so much coming at you all the time.
It's about being curious. Always on the lookout for new brands, new tech, even just like, what are people into these days? Consumer trends change so fast.
And RoleCatcher talks about building your network, right? Finding those thought leaders. So like going to industry events, online forums, even just following the right hashtags can be helpful.
All of that. It's like having your finger on the pulse, That way you can spot what's going to be huge before everyone else is talking about it.
Which is key in this role because you're making decisions about what to put out there.
Exactly. So when you're prepping for this interview, think about those trends you're excited about, the challenges that get you fired up. Like, what's your vision for the future of perfume and cosmetics? Let them know.
I love that. It sounds like landing this wholesale merchant job. It's a mix of preparation, passion, and a little bit of trend-setting flair.
And don't forget a good story.
That's right. Every interview question is a chance to tell your story. And with RoleCatcher, you've got those AI tools to help you practice, get feedback, so you walk in feeling confident and ready to wow them.
Go get them. Show them what you've got. The world of perfume and cosmetics is waiting.
And there you have it, folks, another deep dive in the books. Hope you found this exploration of the wholesale merchant role insightful. Remember, knowledge is power, and following your passions, that's where the real magic happens. Until next time.